Hello everyone, how you doing? And welcome back to Skye and Evan in the morning. And today we have an intruder among us, an imposter, some may say. Introverted robot, say hello to the audience.
Hello, audience. How's it going?
Yeah,
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
indeed. And today we're gonna be talking about 28 days later and 28 weeks later, which I watched both for the first time yesterday with Introverted Robot, and so it was an interesting experience because I'd never seen them, and Rob likes the original. Not very much
Well,
the 28 weeks, but yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
interested. How many times would you say you've seen it? Have you seen it a couple of times, or because this is only I'd only seen these movies once and I rewatched them, so I've seen them twice now, and I don't love them. I wanted to see these two because of the 28 years
The new
later.
one.
Obviously, the trailer
Yeah.
looks amazing. But
Oh yeah,
how many times have you seen these?
probably four. I watched it back in 2021, and I did not like it. And I was like, I should probably give it another chance since I didn't like it.
You didn't like the first one?
Yeah, not at first, and then I slowly liked it more and more because I was just like, I didn't like it for kind of stupid reasons on my part because I had no idea at the time what the film was trying to go for, and I
Well, well, it's funny. I've had a similar reaction when I rewatched it. Because my first reaction when I watched this movie was there's some movies that you watch where you just sit there and you're like, it feels like they're making this up as they go along, and
Yeah,
zombie movies
definitely feel
especially
that way
are
with the
like
second
that, where
one.
it's like, oh no, go to battle. It's events happen, like someone gets bit, and it's like, just this happens, but it's like, well, isn't that what it's like in an apocalypse? There's zombies everywhere. It's like, yeah, but you do want there to be a greater point and something that ties the story together. But I appreciated a lot more that they were going for thematically in this movie. And it's funny, I feel like both of these movies, The Last of Us, took a page out of these movies for
yeah.
its story, for sure. And in a good way, because the first movie definitely has something to say, and I think they do a good job building to the ending.
Yeah, the second movie also has something to say, but they don't really follow through with any of the. Well, when I say it has something to say, I mean it has five things to say.
If you have different colored eyes, you can get immunity from zombie rage red eye virus. It's so weird that that's just essentially dropped. I mentioned The Last of Us. We might want to talk about 28 days and then go into weeks, but my God,
Yeah.
they're
So much.
they just are hey, this could be a vaccine. They're just zombies overrun. It's and it's all just a fucking moot point. It's well, great. So
It
much
ends
for
with
that.
well, we'll get into it. I want to start with the 28 days before we get into 28 weeks.
I'm starting to think that we'll have more to talk about 28 weeks later, as
Maybe it is it's such a frustrating movie.
it.
To cleanse our
'cause
palates
you-
yesterday, Evan, after we watched 28 weeks later, we watched The Happening. So that was a fun triple
Oh,
feature
God.
we did.
That must have been funny, honestly. That must have been an entertaining capper.
Well, yeah,
God.
The Happening was definitely more fun than 28 weeks later. So yeah,
Yeah, I think I think by the end of
God.
it, Skye kind of died inside, but I was just having the time of my life.
I did.
You guys were marathoning if you watched all three.
Yeah,
Jesus.
We watched all three, yeah.
we were like, fuck it, we might as well
Oh.
watch 28 weeks later and then The Happening, why not?
Yeah.
I was surprised, but
But yeah, 28 days later. Interesting movie, I say, as a first time watcher. I think it is very interesting in the sense of what it's doing, for a very simple finding something worth fighting for in the apocalypse, and that is kind of being the point, and the arc for Jim as the main character, and I think it's done fairly effectively. I really like it.
Well, like I said, from what I understand, this movie did in a lot of ways redefine what people understood about zombies, because the modern zombie usually runs. Back in the day, it was just a crowd, and we still have that with The Walking Dead and all that. It's not like that completely died out, but I feel like the modern interpretation of the zombie is usually them running, and then it being like a virus rather than just like the dead coming back, like, because that's what it is in the original Night of the Living Dead, like a literal cemetery, just the dead are rising. And in this, it's more of like a pandemic. And that theme of everyone dying, I love that, like, just repeated phrase of just everything's fucked. Like, the characters keep saying that in these movies, and it's like, it's such a repeated thing, because it's like, what is there to fight for in a world like this? And it's like, you fight for each other, you fight for who you are, and I love that this movie has a lot to say in that regard.
Yeah, it goes for a very simple, like, you find the things that are worth fighting for. Which I think is obviously, like, a theme applicable to real life in the sense of, like, our world is chaos, too. You know, obviously it's not zombies, but the things that are worth fighting for are, you know, what's close to you and what matters to you.
Yeah.
Well, and it is an ironic thing about apocalyptic stories. They're meant to reflect, like, modern times, even though the world's destroyed. Because, like, you know, humans are still humans, and, you know, there's something to learn about people through stories like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also the way the infected, or zombies, or whatever you want to call them. There's so many different names for them. There's not really, like, a simple name for them other than zombies. Are reflected in this movie. They're a lot more. They're a lot different than any other zombies, because they're not really the classic zombies, like you were saying. They're more just people infected with a virus, who are amplified by the virus's effects, because they still inhibit human features, like I think one of them speaks in the movie, like the boy is just like, I hate you, and
yeah, you hear it, like, subtly, but usually it's just like roaring, kind of like the chimps. That's the whole thing. They first infected chimps, and it's as if, like, and they call it rage. What are they infected with? Rage. It's just pure anger, and, like, they just beat and, like, kill anything that they're nearby. So yeah.
Yeah,
I also love the editing of how they shoot the zombies, or, like, infected, like you were saying. There's a lot of, like, quick cutting around them, and this movie and the second movie use quick cutting, like, to good effect to make them seem less. It's probably to, like, hide the actual effect, because they might not look as good if they, like, rested on them. But I like that you see little bits and pieces of them, because they're always sprinting and, like, writhing around.
The presentation of the original movie is so interesting. I find it very unique. It feels very early 2000s. It also feels
in the best way possible,
like a B movie, in a good way.
Well,
like a fun B movie, like the Sam Raimi type of, like, Evil Dead. You know,
very much so. It feels like, you know, kind of small budget. It was only $8 million, which is decent, but, like, this was pretty much an independent movie at the time, and Danny Boyle was relatively green. But do you know the reasoning why that was?
Nope.
Oh, so the reason why they shot this movie on a potato, which, seriously, it was like a really good camcorder, but the movie's psycho grain. I've got, like, the uncompressed, like, Blu-ray quality file on my computer, and it's so funny that even this movie in, like, its best presentation still looks, like, really grainy and, like, blurry and not that good. The reason why is all of the scenes in London where London is empty. The way they did that was by shooting at, like, early morning in the day and closing off specific sections of the street, and they managed to pull off, like, a look that made just London look like it was empty. But it would have been impractical to shoot on, like, a traditional film camera, because it was bigger and, like, more expensive to put together. So that's why they opted for the, like, lower quality camera. And it's funny how that works, that in a lot of ways it benefits the movie by, they knew they had a limited budget and limited time to work with, and that was the compromise they made. And in a lot of ways, I think it helps. I think it makes the movie better.
I think the presentation of the movie is really part of what makes it so appealing. It looks like a B movie, and the thing is, the shot composition and the lighting and everything is great. It's just that the camera looks like shit.
Well, yeah, it's directed by Danny Boyle still,
Yeah.
and I do find that ironic about 28 years is that it's being shot on iPhone 15, which is like, you know, the iPhone has become the modern camcorder, so in a lot of ways it's like it connects, but that movie does still look good because you can shoot a movie really well on an iPhone, so...
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Again,
they are
another thing
using
I'm
like
glad
big
for.
camera rigs and lenses for
Well,
the iPhone.
yeah, it's what's always ironic is like this movie was shot on iPhone. I'm like, yeah, sure, but you had like all this setup and all this
Yeah.
lighting and all these effects and
Yeah,
money.
it's because
and-
everyone is like, oh, you see,
Yeah.
it was shot on an iPhone, so everyone can make movies like this. It's like, no, you kind of need a huge fucking rig and everything. So yeah.
iPhone and
Yeah, the
big
principle's
quotes.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The principle's true. The application less so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like it works so well the use of the camcorder in the movie that if it didn't use the camcorder, I don't think the movie would be as effective in what it was trying to go for. Because that grainy look is so off-putting in a way that it kind of puts you already at unease.
Yeah, something about it seems a little uncanny.
It feels.
I don't know
like-
about any of you guys, but it reminded me a little bit of like Christopher Eccleston era Doctor Who. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
again, you were mentioning like
Which is
early
funny 'cause he's in that.
2000s. Yeah, and British TV and all that, but it's like it's a little connects a little bit, but
Yeah.
something about it like felt like kind of like that era to me.
Yeah,
Yeah, with the very cheap digital cameras that don't even shoot in 1080p. That was, early days, 2005 Doctor Who. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely does remind me of old British television. I mean, I think you even said, Skye, that it just felt British to you, like when.
Oh yeah, the movie, even the way it's shot. I was watching this, like the way this is shot feels British, and I can't really put my finger on why. And obviously, it's Danny Boyle. He has like a very specific style, and he is very British. But yeah,
Yeah, it could just be the Danny Boyle effect.
yeah.
But
It is. I find it interesting because the movie, it feels, because like the way you were saying, Rob, of like it being not being as effective without that look. The look kind of makes the movie feel a little claustrophobic in a sense of like
Yes.
you can't really see what's going on properly. So at any point, at any moment, like a zombie could come out and just like fuck those characters over because you can't like scan the environment.
Yeah, no.
So everything looks dirty, everything looks fucked up, even if it's not, just because of the way the camera is. And I think it adds to the atmosphere of like the destruction of London.
It's kind of funny that you say that because apparently like part of Alex Garland's inspiration was Resident Evil, and like I mentioned that has slow zombies, but that leans heavily into the virus edge of like zombies, and they do like a bombing the city, which they do in 28
Yeah.
weeks. So like there are connections between those stories, but that game, like people like that the camera feels like a zombie can always surprise you, and they do a good job. Like the kid in the gas station and the one in the house where the one guy gets bitten, like those those feel like shocking moments when zombie just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, because you can't see anything in the background. All of a sudden it switches to a POV camera, and then it like all of a sudden running towards Jim, and you're like, holy shit, what the fuck's going on? Or before you can even process it, like a zombie just comes through the window, and it's so shocking. I don't think I've seen a zombie film shot like that before, and it's done in such a creative way.
It like toes the line of like having like POV shots and like being kind of found footage, and also being like the camera telling a story. It is very interesting because it's like the camera is the character in the movie. It's like the camera is sometimes it's third person, sometimes it's first person, but like it is definitely like part of how the story is told, which I find fascinating. And I think the only moment that like really worked with that in the sequel, other than like the first 7 minutes, was the POV shot of the night vision camera.
The night vision,
the
yeah.
vision gun, 'cause that
I
was
am
kinda cool.
I am wondering if that was also shot by Danny Boyle. I have no idea which scenes he shot, but something about that I'm like, this feels like it has more sauce than some of the
More
other
sauce,
scenes. I don't want to act like that guy had nothing to bring to the table, but I'm like, this feels abnormally good compared to the rest of the movie because so many sequences just generic.
You can tell in that movie when like the shot composition and just the movie looks good, and it's like, oh wait, this movie has sauce all of a sudden. This must have been directed by someone competent, because for the most of the movie the shots are quite flat, and it's either like a wide shot or just they don't really do anything experimental with it. But when like they do something with the camcorder or something like that, you're like, okay, it's probably done by Danny Boyle.
Yeah.
Even those like first 7 minutes, I mean, I guess we'll talk a bit more about like 28 Days Later, because there's still a bit more to talk about, but
Yeah. Well, just something random to throw in, by the way, I keep mentioning The Last of Us. The scene with the horses definitely felt like that, of like, are they infected? Like, that reminded me a lot of the giraffes. Like,
yes.
You really can tell that, like, that The Last of Us took a huge page out of this story and its themes, and yeah.
Absolutely.
While we were watching, we just like, I said it a few times, and Neb did too, of just like, this, like, The Walking Dead and The Last of Us just completely ripped off this movie.
Well, the opening, I have no idea if Kirkman has just straight up been like, yeah, this is just like almost a direct, but it's like almost one for one, just waking up in the hospital, like, where is everybody? What happened? It's like, it just, I mean, it's The Walking Dead,
Yeah, the first like 10-20 minutes of 28 Days Later is just a one for one, thing of the Walking Dead comics, and maybe even the show. The show's a little bit different, but it's still, one to one, where the character wakes up in hospital months after, and no one's tended to his wounds or anything. So he's just like, kind of sitting there, and he has to experience the world as a whole. It is kind of a good opening for a zombie movie, though, or a zombie piece of media, because
a character just they're a blank slate just like you. You're figuring it out along with them, and the world's just empty. Yeah. And the scene where he is walking through London really feels like, I think we've all imagined that, just like the question, like, what would happen if just people just disappeared? Yeah. And you just see him just walking, just hello. He's like anyone, hello. And there's no one.
Yeah.
Pretty harrowing.
Yeah, it is it's so isolating, and I do like that you can see some mistakes in the London thing, because you can see like maybe like the occasional person walking by, or like a car going under a bridge, but I feel like that really sells it a lot more as being a bit creepy. Like, maybe the car could be a survivor, trying to escape the city, or the person walking by could maybe be another survivor, or an infected.
Could be a zombie.
Yeah. Like, the mistakes really do add to it in its creation.
By the way, something that I realized, because I was mentioning that, like, a lot of the themes and the characters, like, they worked better on rewatch, but something else that I picked up on from the trailer to 28 Years, the church. I don't know if you guys have seen the second trailer with, like, the priest getting, like, zombified, but is that supposed to be the church from 28 Days Later? And, like, they're going to show the priest getting infected, and, like, the infected, like, overrunning the church?
Oh, it could be. That's actually a really good theory.
I looked, I compared them side by side, and it looks like a different church. It's one of the, like, who cares? Like, they probably just had a different church if that is what they're going for, but I don't know. We'll see when we. Oh God, I cannot wait for Years. I hope it's great.
It looks great. I mean, it will definitely be better than Weeks. That's something that I can definitely be confident about.
Are we ready to jump into that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, any other thing to kind of discuss? I think we've kind of like gone over general overview. I guess the ending is like. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was about to talk about the ending as well. You read my mind, actually.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, well, that was another thing that actually, the first time I watched this movie, you were mentioning, like, dumb things. I remember being like, dude, Cillian Murphy, like, took all of these guys. I'm like, how did he do that? But I'm like, the thing is, there's only 9 of them, and they kill, like, the sergeant or whatever, so it's 8. Yeah. And then, like, obviously he uses, like, the infected against them. And I'm like, it felt a lot more plausible.
Smart. Like, it's like, obviously, like, military. And, Rob did mention the theory that, maybe they are faking being military, which is interesting to think about.
Well, even if they aren't faking it, this is what I love. Even if they aren't faking it, they're like boys. They act like,
Well, they make
people
a
from
very big
college
point
and-
of being like the way they act is super like bullshit,
Immature.
like toxic masculinity, just like immature 17-year-old boys, even though they're adults.
You get that from the very beginning, and it ties
Yeah.
in because like that's what's revealed later on, is that they were like looking for women. That's why they sent the message out. And you get the guy who cooks, and he like has that like dress that he
Yeah.
wears, and it's just you can tell exactly what they're going for with kind of primal. It's like it's a bit like Lord of the Flies, just like what happens when boys or men are just isolated and like kind of lose their minds and the loneliness and not like having any connection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think.
Though it was so funny though, because the moment I saw Christopher Eccleston, I was like, I'm sure he's a bad guy. Like, I don't trust him. And Neb immediately said, yeah, all the actors who played the Doctor, they always play villains. I was like, oh, I'm sure
is-
he's the bad guy. It's
I
fucking
find
funny
it
as
so funny how that works, that David Tennant played the Purple Man, and he also played like the lunatic in one of the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah.
He's like barely in it, but it's so funny that like oftentimes and Matt Smith is David in House of the Dragon. Like,
well, yeah, and he played
so
the
many-
villain in Soho too.
That's right.
Yeah, well, and he was supposed to be in the Terminator. Like, oh my god, the doctors do play villains, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just evil.
Peter
in every other
Capaldi played
dimension.
what's his name in the Suicide Squad as well. He was also a villain.
Oh yeah, the thinker. Yeah.
The Thinker, yeah.
Oh, that's.
I'm saying, man, they all play villains. It's great.
I do like how much the movie, like the ending of the movie, kind of. Jim is kind of paralleled with the Infected because he does kind of go on a whole rage.
Yeah, yes, I know. It reminded me a little bit of Get Out. Like it seems like they even show those shots of him like walking and like what was that? And it's him, and it like they make him the slasher at the end of the movie, and it's always
so
interesting to
cool.
me when horror movies do that, when like the main character turns it around on the villains. So yeah,
Yeah,
and the ending of like In the House in a Heartbeat with her like having the machete as well, like in him in
Oh,
the
yeah.
shadows. It's like, is he infected? Is he
Yeah.
real? Like that.
It was really good.
That's clearly what they're going for.
Yeah, of him like
absolutely.
just fucking going in on the guy, like destroying his eyes. It was
Yeah.
it was so fucking good. And the music, yeah, we just mentioned In the House in a Heartbeat. That track is like iconic.
Well-
It's so fucking good.
Yeah, they used it in Kick-Ass as well. I think John Murphy like did original music for that as well. And the OST as a whole, like I really love the scene where they're shopping. Like the
yeah.
music's really good. Like John Murphy, he's kind of gotten a resurgence as of late, ever since he started working with James Gunn. But I really like his music.
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
really like John Murphy as well.
I do like how I can definitely see how Cillian Murphy was like a bit of a side note, but I can definitely see how he's considered for Batman, especially in the final act of that movie where he's just like in the attic or on the on the seams of the roof and everything, just hunting everyone down. I can definitely see why he was originally considered for Batman Begins. But eventually,
He could have pulled it off.
Oh, definitely.
He would have had like more of a Pattinson vibe, I imagine, of
Oh,
like
yeah.
kind of a more reserved Batman and Bruce Wayne. Like they definitely like went for the American Psycho isms with like Bruce instead of Batman Begins. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade his interpretation of Scarecrow for anything, though. It's such a fucking creepy. It reminds me a little of Nightcrawler. Like he is just so off-putting in that movie. It's insane.
Yeah,
He's phenomenal.
yeah, that was my first ever like my first ever movie that I saw with not with Cillian Murphy with Cillian Murphy in it. And I was just absolutely terrified of him. I still am. That's why I kind of refuse to rewatch that movie now, because I guess his performance scares me too much.
Well, Batman Begins came out when I was like 2. I was fucking terrified because like I loved that movie when I was a kid, but it was scary as hell. Because I loved The Dark Knight, but that movie wasn't scary. It was a little scary for a kid. But Batman Begins, that shit like it scarred me as I grew up.
I feel like we all collectively have childhood trauma from that movie with the Scarecrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's every kid's got like at least one of those movies that they probably shouldn't have been allowed to watch as a
Yeah.
kid, but
Oh,
like
yeah.
get
Oh.
like
watched like The
Scene
Dark Knight when I was like
freaks you
4. It was, yeah, well, it was an insane time.
What do you think? I don't know what. Apparently, the original ending had Jim die, and that
Yeah.
didn't work out well with test audiences. I'm guessing that would have been that she killed him, and
Well,
I don't. And the cut after the gate is I think is a little cheap and weird, and I'm glad that there is an optimistic ending, but something about the ending was a little underwhelming for me, even on rewatch. Like,
I did.
What do you think about?
That was one
how
of the
it wraps
things I
up?
mentioned when we were watching. That I was like, I think that they should have ended with them like getting him out of there and him being like hurt and everything, and we don't see anything after that. Them having like the like, the rebuilding, the having that house, and it was interesting that it was shot at a better camera as well, which I thought was like a
Yeah,
good stylistic
yeah.
move. But like seeing that, I was just like, I feel like the movie should have ended before, and like we like the implication, like we don't need a happy ending. We just need to like his arc has been completed. The idea that he found something worth fighting for. We don't need to like tie it off with a bow.
Well,
I thought that was
that's-
a little too much.
Well, that's why, in a lot of ways, I think it would have been better had he actually died, because it's like, I get the whole thing. Is like a character, like audiences don't like it when the main character just dies. Like, oh man, but like a happy ending oftentimes wins audiences over. But I think thematically, it might have worked better had he died, and you could have left it on them, on the girls, like because that ties into the actual ending. What they were trying to do and say with the soldiers is that like, they're the future. They're the ones who like will kind of like move on, and where like more people will come from. Like, even though like the infected just starve off it, which that's another thing I find interesting about the end of the movie is that like they just starve to death. That's it.
yeah,
Like, yeah.
interesting.
Most zombies like stick around for like years afterwards, and like I know they rot in The Walking Dead, but in this they just kind of die because they don't feed themselves.
It's interesting that you mentioned like the ending of the movie, because it was confirmed that there were like multiple endings filmed for the movie because they could just not get it right. Because yeah, one of them was that he died off. I think another one was that they left it up to interpretation whether he lived or not, and I think that would have been the ending I preferred.
Yeah,
Because-
same.
But no, they created the happy ending like I think like Skye said, because they needed to have a happy ending because it didn't go well with test audiences. Which is why we get the ending that we do, and it does feel a little jarring in a way because it cuts from that, like the mansion, them escaping, and which does feel very Resident Evil with like the whole mansion and the
Oh
zombies.
yeah.
Yeah, like, especially like the statues
does.
around and everything. It's
Yeah, they do still leave the like interpretation, because that's the last line. Do you think they saw us this time? It's like, well, but it's pretty clear that they do based on what they actually show. So
oh yeah.
I think leaving the fate of the characters ambiguous would have been a little better, but because it does feel a little mismatched from what the rest of the movie is going for.
Yeah.
I get it though. It's a hard movie to wrap up, like, because it is a very simple movie and it doesn't have like as clear of a end goal as The Last of Us or other zombie movies like that. So
Yeah.
I kind of get why it was a little hard to pull together.
I kind of like to think that the ending was kind of a dream, like a dream from Jim, because he originally when they were in the fields and everything, he dreamed that he was like completely alone, and he was like yelling out hello and everything, and then the movie ends with like them
And they
saying
do
hello
have
in a happy way.
him hallucinating his parents earlier in the movie,
Yeah.
and they do change
Yes,
the camera when they do
yeah.
that. So that is actually an interesting interpretation, Rob. I kind of like that.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
would be
that's
my personal interpretation of the ending, because I don't
I-
like that's happy.
I do love that the end text is hello, and you just get
Yes.
that like one shot of it upside down and it says hell because it's not finished. Like, it's like that's really clever, and it connects because that's what Jim's saying when he's going through London. He's just shouting hello, like looking
Yeah.
for anyone. So
That is his
I did like that
catchphrase,
as a
yeah.
detail.
It is very cool, and the way it like pays off, because he keeps shouting throughout the movie in his dream, and yeah, I do like to think of of it as being a dream, but like a happy ending, that like he has found something and the dream is a lot more, happy and in tone and everything. But yeah, as an ending,
but if it's like, because like in my mind, he's just like, he's recovering from whatever injury like he had, and he was like almost
which is
dead.
a brain injury, so that they could read into that. And that note, by the way, from his parents that says "Don't wake up."
Oh
it's like,
yeah, that's so
that was so
fucked up.
fucking good. That was fucking amazing. That was the moment I locked in with the movie. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm down
Forgot
with
about
this.
that shit. Like that was really memorable.
Don't wake up. So
I
good.
think the moment I locked in for the movie with me, the time I rewatched it, because when I first watched it, I didn't really care for it. But when I watched it on a second time, I think the time I locked in was the zombies in the church when he enters in. He's just like, hello. And the zombies just stand up and look at him, but they don't do
Look up.
anything.
Yeah.
They just like stare him down, like they're confused, like why he's not running, what he's like doing, because it's probably the first time they've seen a human in a while, so they're trying to process it, and it makes it so much more creepy than if they just ran at him. It's moments like those where it makes the movie a lot more memorable than, say, I don't know, World War Z or something like that, where Brad Pitt just kills hundreds of zombies. And
it's really that I was laughing. The Pepsi product placement with like the soda machines, like him drinking the soda at the end, and obviously the way they run in that movie, like I really did feel like that movie's just like a worse version of this movie.
Oh yeah,
I despise that movie because it just straight up doesn't adapt the book, and the book is like one of my favorite books of all time.
The book is
like,
really
God,
good.
World War Z is a mess.
Yeah, the book compared to the movie is just incomprehensible. Speaking of like product placement, I do find like usually like in 28 Days Later, it is like kind of funny seeing like, oh, that's the Pepsi product placement. That's all
Pepsi. Tango.
Yeah, Tango.
So funny.
Whatever the hell Tango is. Like, I haven't seen a Tango soda in like ever. But when you move to 28 Weeks Later, it's so much more clear which scenes had product placement in it. Like the McDonald's sign outside of like,
like this was a pretty prominent one that I found funny.
like that's the most probably the most jarring
businesses
one for me.
like
because it's just like
Yeah,
McDonald's
and
in the
when
middle
you
of
showed up
nowhere.
and just said, "This shot is sponsored by McDonald's."
yeah, it feels like, I mean, like, why is there soda in that movie? It's like sodas don't really like expire, and like sugar, like just that's what they're working off of is sugar rushes. And she says that like, you need fat, but like that's
all
not
we
in
have is sugar.
plentiful supply.
Have
so
some
just
painkillers.
working what they have.
Have some painkillers and sugar. That was an interesting moment as well. That was some interesting world building.
Yeah, I do like how they actually do try to address like survivors, them going without food and water for a long time, like how they would actually feel. And I just love little moments like those, like how the dad tries to get rainwater from the rooftop, even though scientifically,
Yeah, that was cool as well.
I love that shot with like all the catches, just like every bin in the entire building's just on there, and the roof is just white. Like that was a really good shot.
Yeah, it's so good, and I love how like they're not like they're smart at like adapting and everything, but like when it comes to like general knowledge, of course, like they're humans. They're not like geniuses or anything. Because like he's like, oh, I've been trying to figure out how to get to work, and it's like, well, you just got to place it on soil, because that's how you get the water. That's how you taught in like science class and everything. But the way they're just like, oh, he puts it on the roof and everything. I just think that's so cool. It's like such a cool way of showing that like they're not like, not everyone in the apocalypse is the most intelligent person, but like still it's the fact that they're just trying to survive and everything. It's just it's all like so clever to me. The way this, you get what I'm trying to say. I'm just kind of ranting.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I
I quite enjoyed it the second time around. I still didn't. I gave it a 7 right when I gave it a 6 before. But it definitely, I got something more out of it the second time, because the first time it was just it was just an average movie, just kind of like typical zombie movie. But there is something to say, and I do think it is worth a rewatch if you've not watched it a second time. So
Yeah.
Speaking of
It gets a
something,
recommend from the three of us.
yes, I highly recommend
Yep.
it. Speaking of something
Yeah.
that doesn't have something to say,
Speaking of having something to say, 28 weeks later, Evan, can you tell me what 28 weeks later was trying to say?
wow, a lot of pressure.
it's so. Well, like maybe part of it is the whole idea of like attempting to
done.
control like a virus, attempting to control like nature, and it like ultimately coming back and inevitably falling apart. There's something to be said for like chaos in the street and what happens when people just mass panic and everything just falls apart. Like, and I do think it ups the ante of the first movie in an interesting way, because the first movie is just like, you know, like one relatively isolated location, and then the zombies just kind of starve themselves to death. In this movie, it's an outbreak. It's like it's come back and it overruns like this haven. But the problem is what I realized this movie reminded me a little of is Rogue One, which is a funny comparison. But what I mean by that is it just moves so fast. There's like a lull for a little bit there, but then like it's just zombies and like shoot everybody, firebomb and gas. It's just like it just moves so fast that there's no time to develop any of the characters. So like,
it is very much a collection of things happening. I don't think it is a story. It's just like things kind of happen. It's like, why not? Like at the end when the dad finds them, it's like, why is he in the tunnels? Why did he find? I don't know, man. Because like it's kind of cool if he bites the kid and he turns out to be, you know, immune.
Well, I laughed my ass off at that. I'd almost forgotten about that. It's like he's their leader or something. He's always in the right place at the right time. Like, how did you not get blasted away in the city?
Well, remember, he saw the fucking fire coming, you know, right next to him. And then he just has a few burns on his face. I mean, yeah, we can also get into that. Just the idea that anyone survived the blast when they bombed the entire fucking city.
Yeah.
Different.
I was laughing at that because they're just like, they got out, they're on the bridge. I'm like, dude, they smited the earth. Like, they sucked that badly? Like, come on. Like, what? If you're killing civilians, it's like you're just bombing everyone because you can't let it spread. Like, how did it spread? I
don't know, man.
Did.
That was so fucking funny. It was just like, oh, I guess they survived. I guess it was all for naught. Good job.
And then,
well, and something else that I laughed at, which is just the general way that they did how the virus came back, is that it like obviously Dawn gets infected, but then they like reduce the frame rate or like rah of like. No, they would have shot him dead, and that would have been the end of it.
There is so many issues with that scene. For one, they would just let him in like easily without no one watching.
Well, he's got the card. He runs the place, and they just let him wherever.
They just don't watch him.
The other thing is like, do they not have cameras? Are they not watching? The moment they hear him screaming, they're just gonna put a bullet in his head.
Yeah, or lock the area down. Like, how did he get to other people? Like, it's a mess. It doesn't make any sense how they get there. There were better ways.
There is the stupidity as well of him just like kissing his wife, and like he knows she's carrying the virus by that point. But like, yeah,
exactly. And they figure that out at just the wrong time, and it's just like. I do like that, because you were like, what I would say is that this movie has nothing to say after he turns, and then everything just becomes like zombie panic. There is a through line with his character at the beginning, and with his kids,
that's the
which
thing. Dawn is the only character in the movie, but he dies way too early. He dies way too early, but he's actually interesting. He had to choose between living and dying, and he let his wife die at the beginning of the movie. And then he's haunted by that, but then he learned that she actually survived. That's interesting, but the movie doesn't do anything with that. He's like, well, I thought she died. She didn't, and then he becomes a zombie and dies. Like,
Well, wouldn't it have been so much more interesting? I suppose the point of that is that, like, his wife, like, indirectly ends up killing him, and it's like she left him, or he left her for dead, so it's like, in his own, like, selfishness ends up killing him. But, like, wouldn't it have been better had they just done the obvious thing where he, like, is there for his kids and he dies to get them out? If he'd filled Jeremy Renner's role more, like, Doyle or whatever his name is, more than the role that he fills as just, like, a main character zombie, like, because without him, everyone else is just boring. Like Rose Byrne's character, like, there's nothing.
I love that you don't even remember.
A doctor who has a vaccine and just.
We don't even remember her character's name. Yeah,
I don't remember.
Does anyone?
That was funny.
Doctor.
Right after Jeremy Renner's character died, I said, Rob, can you tell me the name of Jeremy Renner's character in this movie? Literally, the scene where he died, I asked, and Rob was like, I have no idea. It's like, yeah, it's Doyle. But it's so funny, because none of the characters in this movie are characters. Why even Jeremy, why is he in this movie? Like, the movie would have been so much more interesting if he wasn't a thing at all.
Yeah, I do. That's one of my favorite scenes, is like when they just, like, tell everyone to open fire on the civilians, and then he's just like, fuck this. Like, that was kind of cool. Like, that felt like a character moment, But after that, he's just like the action hero, just like World War Z, just moving along and like, we gotta run from the zombies and save the kids. And it's like,
I mean, it felt like a video game with Doyle. It felt like he was just like the main character in a video game, where you're like doing the power fantasy of killing zombies and protecting people, but not really being a character.
Funny you say that.
The kid having to run and like zigzag, that felt like such a sniper mission of like, I need you to run and then go across and I'll get him. I won't miss. It's like,
I won't miss. Like, okay.
Funny you say
I
that.
won't miss is so fucking bad. Sorry, you go, Rob.
Well, funny you say, like, it feels like a video game. I forgot who said that, but I think the most offensive case of it being like a video game is when one of the guys is hanging onto the helicopter and then just the blades are used.
Yes. Oh my god. That scene felt towards the end of this movie. It's an hour and 40 minutes and change, so it's not like 90 minutes, but you ever watch a movie and you're like, they're just like adding bullshit to make it so this is like a feature runtime. Like that felt like so much like that. It did nothing but kill the guy that was hanging on and like make it so that he could like destroy the zombies with the road.
It was
like,
so fucking funny because it was like, oh yeah, this guy with the blue shirt, I forgot he was alive. I was like, why is he alive? Well, because he's gonna jump on the helicopter and make guy from Lost fly the helicopter into the zombies. And so they can destroy all the zombies' heads. It's gonna be like all blood and gore. It's gonna be so cool, even though the CGI is very bad. It was so funny.
I don't know why they didn't just crash the helicopter at that point. You wanted to make that more impactful. You should have just had it so that like that guy trying to get on killed it, but no, he just
killed their one.
The helicopter.
It
seemingly just works fine after it like chops a bunch. I don't know what that would do to the rotors, but I'm like, I guess it was fine. It's like, okay.
It does feel like a 5-year-old's imagination of like a zombie movie, because after Dawn dies, it's like, okay, and then the city explodes, but then the zombies survive the explosion, and then the zombies get killed by Jeremy Renner and his and the guy lost helicopter, and then Jeremy Renner gets set on fire after he pushes a car to get the children away. It does feel like a children's.
That was so funny as well. What was that gas? Right? Like, what was going on with the gas? They were just like, oh my god,
nerve gas. Like they were like nerve gassing the place to kill them. Like I guess because that would have been like they'd already firebombed everything and they didn't want to destroy like more of the buildings. Like I don't know.
It was weird. It was just like, what's with the gas? Like, okay, gas. Now, get into the car. That's gonna protect you from the gas. Like, okay. I don't think so.
Yeah, like, close the vents. I'm like, dude, come on. There's no way. Again, that the video game level, it's just like, a problem, and you gotta push the car to get it through, and it's like, okay. And it kills him.
And it was so funny how he had a fucking flamethrower to kill... to kill Jeremy Renner. It was like, why does he have a flamethrower? Why not, man? It's cool. And to be fair, it was a cool shot.
I still don't know how they like managed to get the keys for the. Maybe I didn't like. I wasn't properly paying attention, but
I think they hotwired it. That like
I,
that's the implication, I guess.
I mean, and but then I'd be like, how
It seemed like they had the keys because it was like very fast, and we didn't hear the hot wiring. But who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it was.
Maybe
like
they were
a
left
deleted
in
scene.
during the outbreak, like someone ditched their car or something. That
It could be like a
could be.
Breaking Bad
Yeah.
situation where, like, Walter White finds the keys and the.
left, and it happens. I don't know. Not too big of a deal. More so just
one of the
pointless.
least problems. In the movie.
Well, my thing is, I think the actual. I wish that they'd drawn out the, like, city getting infected for longer. Because I felt like they were way too trigger happy. Like, I actually laughed at that sniper scene because I'm like, just shoot everyone. And they're like, where are the zombies? I'm like, I don't know. There's barely any. That did not feel like we're overrun and, like, just shoot everything. Like, what, like, we're overrun, shoot everything should look like, and that did not look like that. It looked like it was mostly civilians they were gunning down. It's like, what are we doing? You could have had it so maybe they were locking areas down, and like more people were getting infected because they couldn't escape to safety, but they couldn't quarantine. And that's what they do in Resident Evil as well. Like, Resident Evil 3 is the one where they just bomb Raccoon City when it gets overrun, but the bombing happens like at like
Halfway.
2/3 into the movie, and then after that they're just like, we got to get to the helicopter, and like for some reason they got to go through a subway station and like go through the gas area, and that the farce with the helicopter blades. It's just it's random.
I do kind of wish it was similar to how Resident Evil 3's story went, where it's just kind of like there's a time bomb going off, and they have to escape before, like, the city gets nuked and everything, and then you can use the footage of the city getting exploded. But like, because I thought that was where the movie ended. Like I said to Skye, this is where the movie ends and everything, and then it kept going. I was like, oh wait, yeah, that's right. they have other stuff that I forgot about. It was so weird. I thought it
was all about like saving the kids because they're gonna be the future because they're immune. But then we also they're the future and immune, but also the thing spread to France. So no, everything's fucked again.
Well, it's like what like Ellie gets concerned about in The Last of Us 2 with like kissing Kat. Like, she like worries that like she's gonna infect them. Like, that's literally what it is in this. Like, they're immune. You have a natural immunity, but you're still a carrier of the virus if anyone gets like your blood or saliva on you, which I'm wondering, maybe they'll do something with that instead of 28 years later. I'm really curious like how that movie might connect these two together a little bit better. It won't make this like a better movie, but I'm hoping that they do embrace. I mean, surely like they show the zombies in Paris, so like the outbreak must have spread throughout like Europe and maybe even Asia, so
from what I've read...
Hopefully that'll get developed.
Yeah, from what I've read, Danny Boyle has kind of just not considered, like, 28 Weeks Later canon. Like, I mean, he didn't say it exactly, but it's heavily implied that he does not consider 28 Weeks canon anymore, in terms of developing the movie, at least from an article I read up on it.
Well, if that were the case, then why does the aesthetic look Last of Us-esque? Because like I feel like the implication is that the world's like kind of ended. It seems like the rage infected are different because that's the whole thing. Like, they've evolved, and I'm like, oh god damn it, Alex! Like, don't do this to me again. We'll see how that is because they're supposed to have starved off. So how is it still alive? How's like the virus still a thing? Like, I don't know how that's gonna work. We'll have to see what they do with it.
I will be very curious to see what they're gonna do with that, because there's a number of possibilities where you could go from, because it is 28 years later. This is not like happening within the time frame of a year. This is happening with the time frame within like almost 3 decades. So there's plenty of opportunities what you'd do with the movie. So I mean it's really up to anyone's guess at this point what the movie's about. I mean, I guess we get a vague idea from the trailers, but even then, they're kind of keeping it under wraps, and I really like that.
Because because they're good trailers, and
Yeah.
we've gotten some solid ones this year, so glad to see it.
Yeah, I'm glad to see the art form of trailers coming back, in a way, like that kind of how like the first Alien movie did it, where it's just like they don't show anything, and I do kind of like how 20 years later did that same thing. Like it barely shows you anything. It just, there's zombies. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. Well, Evan and I have had this conversation many times, but it's like trailers. They're good when they're just selling vibes instead of stories. Just sell the vibe of a thing. And I think that 28 Years Later trailer is so fucking good.
Oh,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
I always like describing it as like giving you a taste of the experience. Like one of my favorite, if not my favorite trailer, is The Wolf of Wall Street, like the first trailer that uses like black skinhead as this OST, and it just, you get little bits of dialogue, little bits of like just what the story's like, and when you watch that trailer and when you watch the movie, I'm like, yeah, the movie feels like the trailer. It really does. Like it's always exciting. It's a long movie, but it's edited so well and put together so well. It's amazing.
Well, that's what I find interesting. Yeah, they're going to make the 20 Years Later trilogy, which I didn't realize until like I looked it up recently. But they're gonna.
Yeah, that's another thing I'm concerned about, because Cillian Murphy's not going to be in this movie, but he is going to be in the sequel, which is not going to be directed by Danny Boyle. So I'm like, how does that work? What's that's going to be like? I'm like the Bone Temple or whatever. I'm concerned about the future, and I'm not sure why they want to make like a second trilogy. But it's not even a second trilogy, because it'll be like 2 movies after the third. So I don't know. I'm antsy whenever they announce like a trilogy of movies. Before they did that with the fucking Strangers. They're like making a Strangers trilogy, and everyone hated the first Strangers movie that they made. So it's like, great. They did that with Halloween as well. So, and The Exorcist, because that trilogy worked out well.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting the runtime of 28 Years Later as well, because it looks like it's just going to be 2 hours, which is standard horror runtime.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see how they're going to address a lot of things in that short amount of time, because I'm guessing they're going to address everything either in like the first act or progressively throughout the movie as the action happens, because I doubt there's, from what it seems like, I doubt there's going to be much room for breaks with the characters. Like it does seem like they're like, since they're going off from their territory, like they're just going to be hunted all the time. So I'm curious to see how they'll address that. Alright, I just realized we're talking about like 28 years later. I mean, that is kind of the whole.
Yeah, I mean, the point for Evan of Evan making me watch this movie was because 28 years later is about to come out. So yeah.
Yeah,
But,
I guess like I guess a final thing I'll talk about with, unless there's more you want to talk about, the beloved 28 Weeks Later movie. I do like the first 7 to 10 minutes. I think those first 7 to 10 minutes are genuinely on par with the first movie.
Well, yeah, it's just it's such a strong way to begin the movie, and it's on point. And the character is because that's what we're talking about, that just most of the movie just doesn't feel like you're dealing with characters that are pushing the story forward. Because like, say what you will about the first, and like maybe it like seems like it's kind of random and they're making it up. I do think there's more to the story than that upon rewatch, but in this movie it feels like the plot is dragging the characters along. But that moment, that choice where he runs out and he abandons his wife to save his own skin, that matters. It tells you something about his character, and it's poignant. I love as well that what gets the infected into the house is one of the characters like looking through. Like there's boards on all the windows, and it's all like candlelit, and then she's like gets a sliver of the light, and then when Dawn runs out, it's just bright as like hell because it's like broad daylight, and it feels like that it makes the daylight scary by that, like it's just utterly exposed and running away from a crowd. I really loved how that was put together.
I love how that sequence was shot, because they definitely expand upon like the tension of the zombies, because they use drone shots now. They use over the shoulder camera shots for the zombies, and as Don's running, you can see them coming over the hill, which is probably, I think, the scariest part of the sequence for me. It's not the scare, but it's just seeing them come over the hill just slowly.
Yeah. Well, there's shots in the trailer to 28 years later that look similar to that, where you just see them from the distance, just like running like in an inhuman way. And I
think
can tell. It's funny that Danny Boyle apparently directed the opening, because looks like we're getting a page out of that in the next movie.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so it's so weird, because like the opening of the movie is so good and it's shot really well, and then it just transitions to the next one, and you can just tell that like Danny Boyle did not direct that, because it looks a lot more flat and less expressive. But I do appreciate how well it effectively establishes Dawn as a character, because he does try to save his wife. He does try to get her to leave, but she wants to save the kid, and he's just like, I gotta make a decision. Either I'm gonna die here, or I gotta leave her. And definitely plays into that survivalist mentality that you have to adapt in that world.
But by the way, I don't know if I don't think we mentioned this, but how the fuck did she get out?
Yeah.
She made it back to their house? Like, what?
That was also another thing where we were watching, where we were like, why did you do that? Why did you have her move, you know? But there were so many things they could have done with her that were more interesting, but,
Yeah, other than having her just be catatonic and then she just dies off right away.
It's just so stupid. Oh my god, I hate it.
It's so obvious. Just get rid of Jeremy Renner's character and make Dawn the main character through and through.
Dawn is the best character of the movie.
Yeah.
I can't see it doing anything but improving the story.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would have, but I think it was a mistake to kill him off like halfway through and just make him main character zombie.
And even if they want to commit to the children for like the rest of the movie, they could have done something a lot better, where they're trying to find their mother, because that's like what's the inciting incident for their story, is that they're trying to find their mother and see if she's really alive and go back to the house. And I feel like it would have been a lot stronger to end the movie with finding out that, she actually is dead or infected, and the emotional weight that comes of that, rather than just being like, oh, it's cool, she's actually alive, and she, she's immune to the zombie virus, it's okay. It just doesn't have that same punch to it.
Well, and they don't do anything with it. That's my problem with Rose Byrne's character, is she's like just interested in a vaccine and interested in like the eyes and like checking up on everyone, but like none of it goes anywhere. So it's like, what was the point of the whole idea? Like, are the kids gonna make vaccines? Will it do anything? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
because it just doesn't. It never comes to fruition.
Yeah, they never develop any of it. It's like I describe it in my Letterboxd review as just a maelstrom of mishmashed ideas that aren't fully developed, but get paid off in the end still. Well, paid off is the wrong way of saying, because it's not really a payoff. Well, I guess if you really want to get granular with it, I suppose it is a payoff in a way. But yeah, it's just a complete mess of what it's trying to do, because it has so many different ideas, but it doesn't want to commit to one of them. It's just a weird movie.
It's just a bunch of things.
It's just a bunch of things. Yeah,
they would have been better served like having fewer characters as like the leads, like drop Doyle, just he's boring, drop him. Maybe have like Idris Elba's character be a little bit more prominent in the story, maybe drop Rose Byrne and just like focus on the family, like that's what they did in the original movie. Like it felt like you were just following just a couple of characters and their story, but this movie almost feels like an ensemble piece, but it's too short to develop anyone. So it just, again, that's why I think that Rogue One's a funny comparison. Just lots of action, not much character, and overall just feels like a kind of a bunch of different movies thrown into one, and it just doesn't have like a clear sense of its own identity.
Yeah.
Well, Rogue One is a lot more entertaining. I will say that.
It is.
Yeah, it's. I think a lot of things are a lot better in Rogue One, but it is an interesting comparison, and I do feel like at least committing to one of those ideas would have made the movie a lot better. Like, you know, if you want to make a movie where it's a quick escape from the city, kind of like Resident Evil 3, then you can, you know, do that.
Well, it's what I was saying while we were watching, right? Because every time I kept checking the runtime, I was like, okay, so this is the inciting incident, right? I kept thinking like it's this. But every time I was like, no, it's not. I don't know what the inciting incident is. I guess it's them fighting the mom because it kicks off the plot, but like there's no plot really. It's just like the characters kind of reacting to things randomly happening. Because it's like, oh, the movie's following Dawn, and like him maybe, you know, finding out that his wife survived. That could be interesting. And it's like, no, she died, and he becomes a zombie. So it's them like escaping the city. Not really, because they escape the city fairly quickly. So it's like the story of the movie is not that I'm escaping. So they bombed the city and everyone's dead, but actually the zombies survive. So now they're trying to get out to save the kids because the kids might be immune. So the story is about the kids being immune. And by that point, you're like, an hour and 20 minutes into the movie, you're like, I don't know if the movie, like, it feels like the movie hasn't started. Because after they blew up the city, you were like, man, I feel like we're in the third act. I was like, I feel like we're still in the first. I feel like I don't know what the story is.
Yeah,
I think it would have been far better to end, like I said, Resident Evil 3 is the obvious comparison, but just end it with the firebombing of the city. Because, like, how much more stakes can you get than that? Like, escaping a city that's about to be bombed, like, it's kind of hard to keep going after, like, a good chunk of London has just been, like, burned to the ground. Like, gas? That's how you up the ante.
Well, gas, yeah. After you explode the entire city, let's do some gas now. That's
well, it's an interesting thing that you mentioned how they raise the stakes, because one of the bigger action set pieces is the camcorder scene where one of the characters falls down the stairs. And I feel like that's
the night vision scene. You mean?
Yeah.
That was good. Yeah, that was good. I still find it funny how the child like managed to get lost or run off somehow.
Well, yeah, how the fuck did the kid just kind of disappear?
Yeah, they just
like,
lost
both of them fell down the stairs. Surely they'd just be at the bottom of the stairs, but the kid just ran away.
Well, something else that I laughed at was her instructions being awful. She was like, okay, go to the left here. Then she keeps like, you're like, I stepped in something. It's like, goddamn, like, Rosebud, like, you gotta have better, like, give warnings, like, be clear with, like, where you're going. And I don't know. It was shot interestingly. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Danny Boyle directed that. But yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of the shot. But then they just kind of killed a Rose Byrne because Dawn just, like, steals the gun and just fucking beats her up until she's dead.
Dawn's like a fucking specter in that movie. He's just like a fucking ghost.
It was so funny because it was just like, literally like, oh, I guess we're gonna kill her off now. And then she dies. Like, it was so out of nowhere. Well, it wasn't a fight. It wasn't anything. That's what I thought was weird as well. Because when they used In the House in a Heartbeat at the end, which, by the way, they used that track 3 times in 28 weeks later.
It's overused, unfortunately. It should have just probably been used in the opening.
Yeah.
Though I did think, like, the sniper was like, okay, the city's being overrun, but, like, it shouldn't have been. It should be used, like, once, I think.
I thought if they used it in the opening and then never again, it's fine. Or if they only used it at the ending, probably also would have been fine, though I didn't love the way they used that at the ending.
Yeah, the middle
but
would have
when
been
it was
great
used at the ending, they did use once in the middle, and I didn't like it when they were running out of the city. I was like, okay. But anyway, the when they used it at the end, I was like, so this just doesn't hit the same. And it's like in the original, like, if it's like this really interesting action set piece, or of him like changing the tide against, you know, these awful humans or wanting to hurt someone he loves. Like, that's really interesting the way it's used. Like, the context amplifies like a beautiful, amazing track. But when it's used like this, I was like, well, it's not like in an action set piece or anything. It doesn't fit the vibe that it's going for, right? Because they're going for, like, hopeful, I think, because the kids managed to survive, but then they cut to, like, the zombies being at fucking Paris. So who knows? Whoa. But my point with all of that is that I realized, like, the big third act, like, climax of 28 weeks later was them finding Dawn, the zombie, and him, like, biting the kid and him not turning. But that was like super unceremonious, and it was like, oh, okay, he died, I guess. It was like not really an emotional scene, and Neb pointed that out when we were watching. But like the kids don't talk after that. They're just like, oh, okay, let's go. Like have a conversation. Your father just almost killed you.
I think
Yeah, and I guess the idea is he like maybe recognized them. Like it's like he recognizes her voice. Like I felt like there was something they were doing there, but it.
Well, he did try to. Did you try to do a thing with him being like, oh, he has a bit of his memories. She reminded him of his wife, and then that's why he stopped biting the kid. So
I think it's like a here's the thing. I in 28 Days Later, it's so much more effective. Like when Jim's setting the zombie free, and they both just kind of look at each other. Like the infected just looks at him, and he looks at the infected back. Like they both kind of, in a sense of like recognition. Like they both have sort of a scene of understanding, and it's up to interpretation. What they're thinking.
Well, that's what I love that like expression that they say that it's like they're not like it's just people killing people rather than like infected. Like it doesn't matter. Like it really is just people killing people, and they do imply that in that first movie and in this movie that there's like a piece of the original person still in them. Like I do appreciate that, but I just think they take it to such a goofy degree with Dawn. And again, the fact that he survives the fire bombs and is just always, it's like there's like 5 scenes where he shows up where the main characters are, and it's like, how are you here? Why are you here? Why are you not just another zombie in the crowd?
It's definitely a different
which is also
situation.
funny because there was a moment where they were about to enter the subway, and I was like, wait, why are they all alone? Like the entire cast of characters, right? Like why have no zombies come your way? It's like, I don't know, because this is the quiet moment of the movie. There's no really any reason. Because the zombies were running out of the city. Surely they would have come next to them, but I guess not.
It's definitely a
This
thing
movie
of...
is so stupid.
It's definitely a thing of like 28 Days Later knows how to be a lot more subtle in what it's trying to present.
Yeah.
Especially with like, that scene I mentioned earlier with like Jim understand, like they both have kind of an understanding. Whereas 28 Weeks Later kind of bashes you over the head with like, don't you get it? The family, and like, they meet up, and the family triumphs over all, and all, yada yada, even though like, Dom got bombed, but by the power of family he survived and managed to make it to the subway. Like some Fast and Furious messaging. And
we did make fun of like the family shit, because it was all like they clearly wanted to do something about like inheriting stuff, obviously with the mom, and they had the heterochromia as well be like a character thing, to like be a physical thing to symbolize what he inherited from his mom, to symbolize him inheriting the immunity, which is it's fine as like a visual metaphor. It's whatever. But it was like so overt, and I don't know what the movie was trying to say. Like, yeah, family, huh? Kind of a crazy concept. It was like so true, King. Go off.
I don't think I've ever I usually say like hyperbolic statements like, oh, the movie doesn't have like these characters don't have arcs, like these characters don't have this or that. But I think with 28 Weeks Later, I can officially say that everyone except Dawn. I mean, everyone except Dawn doesn't have an arc, or like.
Well, they don't have a character.
Yeah, they don't. They're all just like
to have an arc.
They all just kind of stand around. They're all just kind of sad.
Yeah,
and they're just like,
yeah, like how do any of them substantively change, or what do they do that like you can point to? That's my problem with Rose Byrne's character. Like I can't give you anything that she did where she had to make like a tough call, or she had to.
What's so funny as well, because when they had her talking to Jeremy Renner, Doyle, and they were like, instead of her saying like, oh, we have to save these kids because they're kids, I'm not gonna let them die, give her a character, she was just like, no, their mom was immune, so they're also gonna be immune, so obviously their lives are more valuable than ours. you're just making her less interesting. Like she's doing this for like a utilitarian kind of thing instead of just be like caring about these kids. You could have like built a bond between her and the kids if you did that, but you didn't.
Well, it's funny. There's a zombie story that does exactly that. It's called The Last of Us. It's like kid who's apparently immune, and it just so happens like
you treat her like cargo, but then you turn out to have a bond with her, and obviously,
I mean, there's also another story that does that called The Road by Cormac McCarthy, who also did the No Country for Old Men. He also wrote
No Country for Old Men.
Yeah, and that's a story about like a father and a young son journeying across basically like a kind of an apocalyptic thing as well. Like like there's so many other stories that do that premise so much better. Off topic, I would recommend The Road to anyone who wants like a story like The Last of Us or like what 28 weeks later was going for, because it is a very solid character study and just the world going to shit and son and a father bonding. But anyway, besides the point, 28 weeks later, what else is there to say about it? I'm trying to think.
I don't think too much else.
To be fair, this has been much longer than we usually go for. An hour and 10 minutes. Usually our episodes are like 20 minutes long. So I think we covered both movies fairly well.
Yeah.
And I think it's very clear we recommend one and not the other.
Yeah. I mean.
Yeah. Well, you guys seem to despise this movie. I'm still, like I said, I compare it to Rogue One as in terms of it like being more within average range. Like I called it plain in my Letterboxd review. And I'm like, I would probably still recommend this before you watch like 28 Years Later. I'm glad to have seen them both, but this is definitely inferior to the first movie. It just, there's nowhere near as much to get out of it. I liked the first movie more on retrospective rewatch. This time I was like, yeah, that was basically the movie I saw. Just I didn't get anything out of it on a second view.
I would say...
Well, the thing with this movie, right, is that I was thinking of is I oftentimes I say this with bad movies Evan and I cover, where I'm just like, the movie wasn't entirely worthless. And you know what? 28 Weeks Later wasn't entirely worthless. But it was worthless as a movie of like it's not saying anything. We already addressed that, but like I don't understand what the point they're trying to make is, and I don't understand how like anything connects from one scene to another in like a sense of like progression that isn't just things happen. I genuinely feel this movie is almost worthless, if not like for Dawn in the first scene, because obviously there are aspects that are good and worthwhile. A lot of the cinematography, the director photography of this movie is good. The soundtrack's pretty good. The acting from what's his name, Robbie Carlyle, famous Bagby from Trainspotting, as Dawn.
By the
really
way,
good.
It was really funny realizing that was Franco. Like, I'm like, because he plays such a different character. I laughed my ass off at that. I'm like, it's night and day performance wise. So yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess I guess the thing is like what an interesting thing to ask is what would you want from 28 Years Later, like as a short like conversational piece. Like what do you want to expect, like what do you want from 28 Years Later, because I think that's quite an interesting thing to ask about what expectations could be.
I want it to have something more to add to, because it's one of those things like we've talked about The Last of Us, and like so there's so many zombie stories that trade in similar themes and ideas. Like I was also thinking Children of Men, like you can tell that's something with the ending of the first movie is like they wanted women, and it's like they want like babies and like babies of the future, and there is a prominent baby inside of the trailer to 28 Years Later, so like that probably is going to be a thing, not to mention the kid that like is with like Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. Like I'm guessing people are like interested, it's a thing in this movie in 28 Weeks that like the kid in the movie is like the youngest like person in the city. So I hope there is something interesting and like poignant on a thematic level to the story and to what they do with the rage virus. But my concern is, again, that word like evolution. I worry that they're gonna overcomplicate like how the rage virus is still a thing in that world, and I'm just hoping that there's like some note to tie it back to the first movie and make it feel like it's like a trilogy, you know?
Yeah, that's the weird thing, because 28 Weeks Later didn't really tie anything back to the first movie, other than the fact that it is the rage virus. But, like, as a movie, they're kind of separate, and it just feels like it's the 28 week, the 28 naming convention just slapped onto, the 28 Weeks Later.
The zombie movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just...
It does not feel like a 28 Weeks Later movie. It feels like a zombie movie that's like, fine, I guess we'll do 28 Weeks Later, I guess. But, like, nothing really relates too much to it other than it's set in London and the rage virus is the thing.
Yeah. Obligated sequel, like the
Yeah.
first movie was successful, so we need to
So
make a
let's make
sequel.
another
It's
one,
one of
yeah.
those movies, basically.
Oh, yeah,
So,
absolutely.
The 28 years doesn't look like that. That's
No.
encouraging to see.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's a cash grab. It feels like Danny Boyle does have an idea and wants to execute on it, instead of being like, let's make some more money.
Well, he did that really well with Train Spotting, and I remember
Yeah.
being concerned because of like, dude, Train Spotting, like legacy sequel to this, but
Yeah,
like
Legacy
they,
Secret to Trace
they did
Spotting
a-
is like, why would you do this? But T2 is great. T2 is really
yeah. I remember being kind of blown away.
good. Yeah.
That was a really good recommendation for the podcast.
It was.
I
Well,
really
that's
watched it.
kind of interesting. But Danny Boyle has become this big like figure
Yeah,
in
we've
our
had a little
podcast. We've done
semi-arc.
yeah, we've done so many episodes on his stuff. Steve Jobs, Pistol, Train Spotting. Now 28 Days Later. So yeah,
Yeah.
Danny Boyle, the goat. I'm afraid.
Just haunts the podcast, I guess.
Haunts the podcast, haunting the narrative. Yeah, but yeah. I don't know what I expect from 28 Years Later. I kind of just wanted to like continue the note of like finding hope in the apocalypse, even though everything's like fucked up. I just kind of wanted to be that more so than 28 Weeks Later, which ended on the like, and then the virus spreads everywhere. And I really don't
Yeah.
care much for them like continuing on the vaccine story from 28 Weeks. If that happens to still be canon, I was like, I'm okay with them ignoring it.
Well, the thing is...
Well, something else. You go first.
Oh, I was just about to say, well, another thing that they could continue is the fact that Jeremy Renner just never misses, apparently. He just doesn't...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I never miss.
Auditioning for Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Well,
Don't worry,
something-
I won't miss.
Something with years that I am interested in as well is I do imagine there'll be some sort of a religious through line.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's that shot of like the kid being like crowd surfing in what looks like a church, and there is also that like old bone structure with like Ray Fiennes' character who like probably is going to be some sort of like religious figure, and the whole thing is very culty and Wicker Man-y. So,
Yeah.
and obviously the scene with the priest in the trailer. So
There's
I
this-
feel like there's going to be some commentary on religion, and maybe religion being like a bit of a product of war, and like people going towards. It's another reason why I love World War Z. But I hope it's handled with nuance is the thing. Same with that like word evolution. I'm just like, Alex, please just make a
the
normal
issue,
movie again.
we were talking
Jesus.
about that yesterday, but the issue with this movie is tying it with Alex Garland. Danny Boyle, I trust fully. Alex Garland is a wild card.
Yeah,
He's a hit or miss.
I think I've mentioned this, but he reminds me a lot of Ryan Johnson, where I'm like, I feel like he worked better when he was working with shoestring budgets and was younger, and I feel like he's gotten a little up his own ass as of late, unfortunately.
Men.
Men and Annihilation, my God, he and his abstract ideas and his weird beyond space and dimensions and just, love transcends space and time. That's Interstellar, but you know what I'm talking about. I'm just,
I do...
like I said, just make a normal movie again.
I do have some hope that like Danny Boyle may ground him a bit more, like not make him so up his own ass as much, since they did work together.
Well, yeah, and it's like, he's coming back. You mentioned that it doesn't seem like a cash grab, so I'm like, maybe they'll work good as a pairing. Maybe they'll work well together, and I don't know.
I suppose
I'm trying to stay optimistic because the trailers look really good.
Yeah, I suppose one thing I'm looking forward to in 20 years later, I won't talk about the plot since that you'll have talked about what you're looking for plot wise. I'm looking forward to how they're going to explore how they're going to make the infected scary, because they experimented a little bit within 28 weeks later, and I think if like Danny Boyle fully directed that movie, they would have found new ways to experiment with it. But I'm kind of looking forward to see how
the opening is.
Yeah, like the drone shots and the over
the shaky
shoulder
cam and lighting in the opening. Yeah, it's pretty effective.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to see how Danny Boyle is going to experiment to try and find different ways to make these infected scary, because already like the first movie is like unlike any other zombie movie I've ever seen in terms of in terms of anything, because I don't think I've seen a zombie movie like that. So I'm very curious to see how he'll explore that. That's my thing that I'll do to try and be different from the rest of you all.
Fair enough. All right. I think that's it. I think we've covered both movies really well.
I think we covered it.
I think we very much have.
Yeah. Very productive conversation. Very, very much. Very glad to have you on, Rob.
Thank you.
Thanks for throwing in a third voice. Glad to have you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I was looking forward to joining in to have a discussion, because I'm very passionate about the movie, not the second one, just the movie,
the good one,
the good one,
the first one.
Yeah.
All right, Skye. I guess it's time for your record. I have a pretty good guess of what you're gonna go for. I think I know. Yes.
Wait, what's your guess?
Go first.
I'm sure you're not gonna. Okay, whatever. I'll go first. So, Evan, it's funny you mentioned Alex Garland, comparing him to Rian Johnson, because the movie I want to recommend is a Rian Johnson movie that I am doing a rewatch of. Because what happened was I watched Nope with a friend of mine recently, because he hadn't seen it, and he said he liked Pio, and I was like, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this movie. And he didn't like the movie. He agreed with me.
I still find it funny that you don't like Nope. I still like Nope. It's interesting
I'm
how
sorry.
that works.
Yeah, and that friend of mine also didn't like Nope. So I was like, we were talking after the movie and everything, and I was like, I'm also not a huge Rian Johnson fan, and he said he really liked Rian Johnson. So I was like, okay. And I talked about why I didn't like Rian Johnson, and he said, you know what? I completely understand what you're saying, but give Knives Out another shot. I was like, okay, sure. So, and this depends on how much time you have, because we could do Knives Out and Glass Onion, but if you only have time to watch one this week, we could just do Knives Out. It's fine. I don't like Glass Onion, so I would rather not rewatch it.
God, we're getting another Benoit Blanc movie this year, like Wake Up Dead Man, I think it's called. So that's the thing. Rian Johnson's trilogy.
That is my recommendation: Glass Onion and Knives Out. Both movies I don't like. To be fair, I do enjoy quite a bit of Knives Out. I think there's a lot of fun aspects to it. I just don't think it's very well written. But maybe on rewatch I'll like it more. Who knows? It's been a few years since I've seen it. So, yeah.
Very interesting.
That was not your guess, was it?
No, it was not. I don't know if it's in theaters where you are. My guess was The Life of Chuck, because
it's still not in theaters. No,
everything.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's not gonna come to theaters in Brazil for like many months. So yeah.
Oh no, I am sorry. It is getting. I haven't seen it yet, but it is getting all the praise, and I am looking forward to seeing a non-horror, not really, from Flanagan.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works, because I love him as just a filmmaker rather than necessarily like a horror filmmaker specifically. So
Yeah, I love everything I've seen from Mike Flanagan.
Oh yeah, great director.
Which I've seen literally.
But I still think he's great.
Yeah, well, I've literally seen everything he's ever made. So yeah, I'm a big fan.
Funny you say that. So have I.
Yeah, well, we watched it together, Rob. So yeah.
Yeah.
We watched his entire filmography last year. It was fun.
Oh yeah, really fun time. Very interesting how he, how he kind of evolved throughout. Like we even saw his first movie, which was interesting.
Absentia was very interesting.
Yeah.
I like that movie. It's so amateur, but I like it.
Yeah, it's very.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Okay, Ryan Johnson. Here we go.
Ryan Johnson. Oh, Evan. I'm sorry. Okay, I know you don't like it's Ryan Johnson, but I might. This random might ask me to give the movie another shot, and you know what? I think we should. I think Ryan Johnson deserves another chance.
Well, it's funny. I always just laughed at like The Last Jedi. Like so many people would not have met each other if that movie didn't happen, including us. And I remember when I think the last time I rewatched The Last Jedi was with my brothers, and we had the same attitude. We're just like, okay, let's just give this a chance. Let's just watch this as a movie, and at the end we're just like, we're all of us are just like, didn't. Still not quite a vibe, even though there's some things to still cling on to, but that's usually been my attitude with Ryan Johnson. I respect him, like Brick a lot. I think he's a better director than writer is always kind of my take on him.
Well, that's been my take too, especially because the TV episodes he's directed have been really good.
Oh yeah, Aussie Man.
He's directed throughout. Like he's directed from like Terriers, Breaking Bad, like a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, he always knocks it out of the park. Always looks great. I laugh at 51. Like that's a Breaking Bad episode that he directed because everyone talks about Ozymandias, obviously. But I'm like, I love 51. It's really well
and The
shot.
Fly as well, right?
Yeah, he also does.
Yeah, it's
right, which is the episode people hate, even though it's great.
Yeah, I think a lot of people still like Fly. It's objectively filler, which is funny how that works because they straight up needed an extra episode, but Fly's great.
Oh yeah, unpopular opinion. It's probably my top 5 in Breaking Bad episodes.
Yeah,
Damn.
I do love a lot of bottle episodes. I think they're really cool. I mean, one of my favorite episodes in Community is a bottle episode as well. So yeah. All right, folks, that's it. Thank you for watching. You can check out Introverted Robots channel in the description. Evan's channel is also always in the description, but I don't shout him out because it's like weird. But yeah, it's also there always if you want to check that out. Evan's making a video about slow horses.
Yes,
so keep an eye out for that.
Yes, I am. It's a long time coming. It is coming soon. I will make a video. It's going to be amazing.
It's very, very good. I've seen quite a lot of what he's made, and it's fun. And we will catch you next time for the Ryan Johnson double feature, Glass Onion and Knives Out. Yay!
Yep.
All right. All right.
Catch you later.
Bye. See you later, folks. Bye bye.
Bye bye.